Morning. It's a really horrible, rainy, miserable September morning after our gorgeous weather we've had, and I thought I would just take the opportunity to finally put something down for you all. People are always asking me what I feed our sheep and goats, so I thought I would share some of what we do on a day-to-day basis. Now, Cameroon sheep and pygmy goats originate from Africa, so they would have lived on a very natural, dry diet, very arid, dry grasses. They would browse for various herbs and lick the earth and stones for various minerals they require. Now, obviously, they're not in that environment, and with our painfully restricted grazing that we give our animals, which is very bland, really, on a grand scale, I like to feed a lot of herbs and make sure that they are getting the most balanced diet that they possibly can throughout their life. And sometimes we need to support their immune systems, their gut, and their general well-being and health. So I turn to Mother Nature for a lot of expertise and help. On a day-to-day basis, I actually feed I don't know if you can see, I really need to get my videoing skills up to scratch. So I actually use sheep nuts, so these are just ewe nuts, and I mix them at the moment with lamb creep, and I actually give the lambs and the sheep a choice of both sizes. There's not a huge amount of difference within the protein and the fat content within these, and is the protein you're looking for within them, but again, not to overfeed. So per sheep, I'm feeding one of these grey scoops per day, and a lamb would probably have about half a day. Now, this is a goat mix. I don't generally feed any of my older goats at all of anything except as a sort of an occasional treat, because they like to think they're getting something. But up until the pygmy goats are about 1, they need to get a good all-round goat mix that's got a very high mineral and protein content within it. Now, there are lots of goat mixes out there. Remember that pygmy goats are not due for the milk and the meat industry, so their nutritional requirements are very different to the standard goat mix that you can get. So you just need to be aware and feed a bit less. You do become the poo detective, and remember that pygmy goats and Cameroon sheep have a very dry, rabbit dropping type poo. Anyway, that's enough about the back end. Let's get back to the front end. So the other thing that I feed my sheep and goats in the winter, and actually I have some goats that have lost some back teeth and some sheep that can't chew as well, and they still require a very high fibre content to allow their rumen to work at a very functional level. So I feed, actually, it's horse beet, which is a non-molast, and I can't stress that enough, non-molast speedy beet. So it's a sugar beet that's grown in this country, sugar beet. It's a very high fibre, and it comes in this dried form. You cannot feed it in this form. You need to soak it. And the reason I use a sugar beet, a speedy beet one, is that it soaks within 10 minutes in cold water. So by the time I fed my sheep and the goats that can chew, this is ready for feeding. And this is it dry, and this is it in its soaked form. So I soak it at its recommended rate, which is about 1 to 3. So 1 scoop of dry matter to 3 scoops of water. But do not ever feed it dry. It swells up in the stomach, it will absorb any liquid within the rumen, and then the animals can get extreme pain and colic and stomach problems and possibly death if they overeat. So that is my day-to-day general staple diet, 365 days a year that I would feed these things. In the winter, I do tend to feed nice warm sugar beet. You've probably seen some of my Instagram posts from the winter, and if you don't, you can scroll back. I do probably post too many, but I put lovely hot water in the morning, and you know, my little shivering sheep and goats, that they have a nice warm, it's like having a warm cup of tea. And yeah, I think probably feeding 50 plus animals on warm sugar beet is maybe a bit far, but I think they deserve it, and they always look so much better for it when they've got a warm belly of food. So the other thing that's really important is when you've got your animals, one of my go-to in my medicine box is actually activated charcoal. Now, charcoal is the sort of the new buzzword, but it's been around for millions of years, obviously. But a lot of people are feeding it to their cattle to reduce the carbon monoxide. So now, carbon monoxide, did I say that? Right, so I have activated charcoal. Now I have a little list here. If anyone wants how to use it, they can DM me and I can send this to them, or send a little email. So this is activated charcoal. You can buy it from equestrian shops. It's a powder. You can't overfeed. Now, the way that activated charcoal works within the gut for any animal, for the dogs, horses, humans, sheep, goats, everything, is that it absorbs the toxins. So when it's ingested, it's used as a sort of an antidote if they've overeaten, if they've eaten some toxin, you know, that they don't want, or a plant, and you think, oh my gosh, or they're going to be ill. If you take them to the vet, they'll probably, you know, your dog to a vet, if it's eaten some grapes or chocolate, they will give it some activated charcoal, along with some other things. They'll probably charge you a fortune for it as well. So yeah, this is basically, you can't overdose. I tend to, you can either sprinkle it onto their food if it's just a general, you're trying to harden up their poo if it's gone a bit soft, if they've overeaten some protein and you're noticing that their feces has sort of clumped together rather than in dry pellet form, and that will just dry out the gut a bit more and allow them to sort of reset. If you are at all worried that they have ingested anything toxic, excuse me, I'm very sorry, then you can, and you might need to get to them quickly, you can mix a scoop of this per animal. Oops, got 2 scoops there, funny. Like this, and you mix it with a little bit of warm water, put it in a glass, and then you can use a syringe just to gently syringe it into their mouth. And they, as I said, you can't overdose, but you want to be giving them at least 40 to 50 mils of this in a sort of a warm paste format, to make sure they've got it. And that's for a sheep and a goat, by the way. I wouldn't be putting that much into myself. Also, if you've overdone it the night before, it's great for settling the stomach. Not that I ever do. Now, onto our herbs. I feed a whole mixture of different herbs to my animals at various times of the year. And, sorry, I am actually allergic to my hay and my animals. So I have forgotten to take my antihistamine today, so apologies for my coughing. So I feed a lot of herbs. Now, I'm going to make a separate video of that in a minute, and then you can watch this one and then you can go on to the herb video.